27 years. That's how long it took for someone to finally speak the words that would shatter everything we thought we knew about September 7th, 1996. I would give anything for that dude's head. These weren't the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist. These were the words allegedly spoken by Sean Diddy Combs, as recounted by Dwayne Keffe D. Davis in a 2009 police interview that remained buried in case files until July 2024. Davis, the only living witness to Tupac Shakur's murder, sat across from Las Vegas detectives and calmly described how $1 million bounty turned into one of hip-hop's most devastating tragedies. At 11:15 p.m. on September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur was riding passenger in a black BMW 750 sedan, driven by Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. They had just left the Mike Tyson fight at MGM Grand, cruising down East Flamingo Road when a white Cadillac pulled alongside them at the intersection of Covell Lane. 4 bullets from a .40 caliber Glock pierced the night air. 2 struck Tupac in the chest, 1 in his arm, 1 in his thigh. He was 25 years old. 6 days later, he was gone. For nearly 3 decades, his murder remained America's most notorious unsolved case. No arrests, no convictions, just theories, documentaries, and a growing sense that justice would never come. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department investigated for years, following leads that went nowhere, interviewing witnesses who refused to talk, chasing shadows in a case that seemed destined to remain cold forever. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. The key to solving Tupac's murder wasn't hidden in some secret vault or buried evidence locker. It was sitting right there in police interviews, court documents, and even a published memoir. The suspect had been confessing for over a decade. The problem was, nobody seemed to be listening. Let's rewind to 1994, 2 years before that fatal night in Las Vegas. Tupac Shakur was already a superstar, but his life was spiraling into a web of legal troubles and street conflicts that would ultimately seal his fate. On November 30th, 1994, Tupac was shot 5 times during a robbery at Quad Recording Studios in Manhattan. He survived, but something inside him changed forever. Tupac became convinced that his former friend, Christopher Wallace, better known as the notorious B.I.G., had prior knowledge of the attack. Wallace was signed to Bad Boy Records, the label owned by Sean Combs, then known as Puffy. What started as paranoia quickly evolved into a very public feud that would consume the hip-hop world. The rivalry wasn't just personal. It represented something much larger, a cultural war between East Coast and West Coast rap, with real gang affiliations backing each side. Bad Boy Records employed members of the Crips for security. Death Row Records, where Tupac signed after his prison release, was closely connected to the Bloods. These weren't just record labels, they were territories in an increasingly dangerous game. On June 4, 1996, Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, a diss track so vicious it shocked even the hip-hop community. He didn't just attack Biggie's music, he made explicit threats, claimed to have slept with Biggie's wife, and declared war on everyone associated with Bad Boy Records. The track mentioned Sean Combs by name, painting him as a target in this escalating conflict. According to Keffe D's 2009 police interview, this public humiliation sent Combs into a rage. Davis claimed that Combs approached him with an offer that would change everything, $1 million to handle the problem of Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur. Now here's where this story gets truly disturbing. Davis wasn't just some random gang member, he was a high-ranking leader in the Southside Compton Crips, a man with the connections and resources to make problems disappear. More importantly, he had a personal vendetta brewing. Hours before the shooting on September 7, 1996, Tupac and Suge Knight attended the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon fight at MGM Grand. After Tyson's quick knockout victory, they were walking through the casino when they spotted Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson, a member of the Southside Compton Crips and Keffe D's nephew. Anderson wasn't just any Crip. Months earlier, he and his crew had attempted to steal a Death Row chain from one of Suge's associates at a Foot Locker in Lakewood. This robbery attempt had created bad blood between Death Row and the Southside Crips, setting the stage for retaliation. When Tupac and his entourage saw Anderson in the MGM Grand, they didn't hesitate. Security footage captured the brutal assault. Multiple men punching and kicking Anderson, knocking his arm out of its socket before hotel security broke up the fight. Anderson was humiliated in front of hundreds of witnesses, including tourists with cameras. In gang culture, such disrespect demands immediate payback. This is where those million-dollar allegations become crucial. According to Davis's confession, he had been sitting on Combs's offer for months, waiting for the right opportunity. The MGM Grand beating provided the perfect justification. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about family honor, gang reputation, and settling multiple scores at once. Davis claimed he quickly assembled a hit squad consisting of himself, his nephew Orlando Anderson, Terrence T. Brown Brown, and DeAndre Big Dre Smith. They piled into a white Cadillac and began hunting for Suge Knight's BMW. It didn't take long to find them. What happened next lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it changed hip-hop forever. As the BMW stopped at a red light, the Cadillac pulled up alongside. Davis later told police he was driving, positioning the car for the perfect shot. But here's a detail that only emerged in recent grand jury testimony. Orlando Anderson, despite being the primary target of the earlier beating, may not have been the actual shooter. A Southside Compton Crips associate testified that DeAndre Big Dre Smith was likely the one who pulled the trigger, claiming Anderson didn't have a clear shot because of Smith's large size. This revelation adds another layer of complexity to a case where the truth has remained elusive for decades. The bullets struck Tupac with devastating precision. 2 to the chest, puncturing his lung and causing massive internal bleeding. 1 to the arm, shattering bone. 1 to the thigh, severing major blood vessels. Suge Knight was grazed by a bullet fragment, but managed to drive Tupac to University Medical Center, where doctors fought for 6 days to save his life. On September 13, 1996, at 4:03 p.m., Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead. The hip-hop world went into mourning, but the investigation was just beginning. And this is where the story takes an even more shocking turn. Instead of keeping quiet like most gang members would, Keffe D began talking. And talking, and talking some more. Starting with a 2009 interview with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, where he was granted immunity in exchange for information about the murder. Then came media interviews, documentaries, and finally, in 2019, his memoir Compton Street Legend, where he detailed his alleged role in the murder with stunning specificity. In that book, Davis wrote about acquiring the .40 caliber Glock, orchestrating the retaliation, and yes, those alleged million-dollar conversations with Sean Combs. He described how Combs supposedly reached out after the murder, asking, "Is that us?" Davis claimed he responded with pride, "Yes." But here's what's truly mind-boggling about this case. Davis thought he was untouchable. He believed his 2009 immunity deal protected him from prosecution, so he spent over a decade essentially confessing to murder in public. He gave interviews to documentaries, spoke to journalists, and wrote a detailed memoir describing his role in one of America's most famous unsolved murders. The problem? That immunity deal only covered his cooperation in the 2009 investigation. It didn't give him a free pass to publicly admit to murder for the rest of his life. Every interview, every media appearance, every page of his memoir was potential evidence that could be used against him. If you're finding this case as fascinating as I am, and you want to see more deep dives into true crime stories that shaped our culture, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, this story gets even more unbelievable from here. Las Vegas police began piecing together a case built almost entirely on Davis's own words. They had his 2009 confession, recorded under oath. They had his media interviews, where he repeatedly described his role in the murder. They had his published memoir, available on Amazon for anyone to read. And they had something else, a growing pile of evidence that suggested this wasn't just a gang retaliation. It was a murder-for-hire plot that reached the highest levels of the music industry. The breakthrough came on July 17, 2023, when Las Vegas Metropolitan Police executed a search warrant at Davis's Henderson, Nevada home. They seized computers, hard drives, .40 caliber ammunition, and materials related to the case. More importantly, they found additional evidence linking Davis to his public confessions. On September 29, 2023, 27 years after Tupac's murder, Dwayne Keffe D. Davis was arrested and charged with first-degree murder with a deadly weapon enhancement. He pleaded not guilty, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. Not because of some brilliant police work or newly discovered forensics, but because he had been confessing for over a decade. The Clark County District Attorney's Office didn't just have his confessions. They had corroborating witness testimony, physical evidence, and a clear motive. Davis had been the shot caller, the gang leader who organized and approved the hit. Under Nevada law, that made him just as guilty as whoever pulled the trigger. But the story doesn't end there. In July 2024, prosecutors filed a bombshell 179-page court document that revealed details from Davis's 2009 police interview that had never been made public. The document included Davis's allegations about Sean Combs, complete with direct quotes and specific claims about million-dollar bounties. According to the filing, Davis told police that Combs had said he needed to get rid of Knight and Shakur and offered Davis $1 million to handle the problem. Davis claimed that Eric Von Martin, also known as Zip, was the intermediary who communicated Combs's alleged wishes. Davis even described how Martin suddenly came into wealth after the murder, suggesting payment had been made. These revelations sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Sean Combs, now facing serious federal charges on unrelated matters, has consistently denied any involvement in Tupac's murder. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police have stated that Sean Combs has never been considered a suspect in the Tupac Shakur homicide investigation. But Tupac's family isn't taking any chances. In October 2024, they hired high-profile New York attorney Alex Spiro to investigate potential connections between the murder and Sean Combs. The family's statement was clear. They want justice, and they're willing to follow the investigation wherever it leads. The case has also attracted renewed attention from other hip-hop artists. Eminem, never one to shy away from controversy, has repeatedly referenced the allegations in his music. In his 2024 track, Fuel, he rapped, "Notorious B.I.G.'s death was the domino effects of Tupac's murder, like facial tissue. Whose clock should I clean next? Puffs." Meanwhile, Davis's legal troubles continue to mount. His trial, originally scheduled for March 2025, has been postponed to February 9, 2026, after his defense team claimed they had identified new witnesses who could prove Davis wasn't even in Las Vegas at the time of the murder. They argue that Davis was actually 300 miles away in Los Angeles, contradicting nearly 3 decades of investigation. In December 2024, Davis was found guilty of battery following a jailhouse fight, adding to his legal problems. Prosecutors have also investigated his jailhouse phone calls, claiming he made remarks that suggested he might be trying to intimidate witnesses cooperating with the prosecution. The defense's strategy appears to be undermining Davis's own confessions by claiming they were entertainment and fiction designed to make money. His attorney has argued that Davis lied about his involvement for fame and profit, essentially asking the jury to believe that someone would falsely confess to murder for book sales and documentary appearances. But here's the problem with that defense. Davis's confessions contain details that only someone with intimate knowledge of the crime could know. He described the type of weapon used, the positioning of the cars, the sequence of events, and the motivations behind the murder with accuracy that investigators have been able to verify through other evidence. The case has also revealed disturbing details about how the investigation stalled for so many years. Witnesses refused to cooperate due to the no-snitching culture prevalent in gang communities. Jurisdictional issues between Las Vegas and Los Angeles law enforcement created communication gaps. Physical evidence, including the original murder weapon found in 1998, mysteriously disappeared from police custody. Kevin Manning, who headed the original investigation, told the Las Vegas Sun that Shakur's murder may never be solved because few new clues came in and witnesses clammed up. He couldn't have predicted that the key to solving the case would come from the perpetrator himself, voluntarily confessing for over a decade. The implications of this case extend far beyond Davis's individual guilt or innocence. If the allegations about Sean Combs are true, it would mean that one of the most powerful figures in entertainment was allegedly involved in orchestrating the murder of one of hip-hop's greatest artists. It would validate decades of conspiracy theories and fundamentally change how we understand the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. But even if Combs had no involvement, the case still represents a watershed moment in hip-hop history. It shows how gang culture and the music industry became fatally intertwined in the 1990s, creating an environment where artistic rivalries could escalate into real violence with deadly consequences. The case also highlights the evolution of criminal justice in the digital age. Davis's downfall came not from traditional detective work, but from his own social media presence, media interviews, and published memoir. In an era where everyone wants to tell their story, Davis's desire for fame and profit ultimately led to his arrest for murder. As we wait for Davis's trial to begin in 2026, several questions remain unanswered. Will prosecutors be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt? Or will Davis's defense successfully argue that his confessions were fictional? Will the allegations about Sean Combs lead to further investigations? Or will they remain unsubstantiated claims? And perhaps most importantly, will Tupac Shakur's family finally get the justice they've been seeking for nearly 3 decades? What we do know is that this case has already changed how we understand one of hip-hop's darkest chapters. The murder of Tupac Shakur wasn't just a random act of gang violence or an impulsive retaliation. According to the evidence presented by prosecutors, it was a carefully planned assassination that may have involved some of the most powerful figures in the music industry. If this deep dive into one of hip-hop's most complex cases has left you wanting more true crime content that goes beyond the headlines, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more investigative storytelling. The truth behind these cases is always more complicated than it first appears, and there are still so many unanswered questions in this story. The legacy of September 7th, 1996 continues to reverberate through hip-hop culture and American society. Tupac Shakur's murder didn't just rob the world of a generational talent, it exposed the dangerous intersection of music, money, and street culture that continues to claim lives today. Whether Davis's trial will finally provide closure or raise even more questions remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the truth about that night in Las Vegas is finally coming to light, 27 years too late. The case of Tupac Shakur's murder serves as a reminder that justice may be delayed, but it doesn't have to be denied forever. Sometimes the truth emerges not from brilliant detective work or breakthrough forensics, but from the arrogance of perpetrators who believe they're untouchable. In the end, Dwayne "Keffe D" Davis may have solved his own case simply by refusing to stay silent about the most infamous crime of his life.